In this life, each year is defined by a specific set of musical artifacts which I take a personal liking to. 2021 has come to an end, and so must the Word document that I'm reading from. So here I present the 50 best pieces of music that I heard in 2021. Who knows if I'll agree with it tomorrow? Who cares? As long as it's authentic to how I'm feeling now, I'm sweet. This video is pretty long, but it's only an abridged version of the full written list, which is up on radiomusic.com. If you'd like to read my thoughts on each song in excruciating detail, including a described best parts of each song. Here are 10 of the many honorable mentions that just missed out.
Slurs, new verbs, new curves, new.
I've been stealing Corvettes, stunning, quiet on set. I do the same thing. I told you that I never would. I told you I changed.
Made a quarter meal before I went in and went to sleep fast. Shit, I know my family took care of. I went to.
Let's get those lights on.
What you want? I ain't got it. What you want?
CHARLI XCX has spent the last 5 years carving out new shapes of pop music that it smacks as a surprise that the song actually called New Shapes is one of the more conventional in a while, I think. 80s revival, one-liner hook, radio pop sheen, ah yes. But it's so ready for the standard TV commercial that it's got to be satirical, right? What you want? I ain't got it. Honestly, New Shapes doesn't need to be a groundbreaking song, but it is a heroic one. Even if the album that it'll be on is aestheticized after the Cronenberg movie about raunchy sex and car accidents. It's a heroic song where 3 ladies impose their greatness, not least Caroline Polachek, who presses pause on the whole thing to split the fabric of time and space with her voice cracks, just cause she can.
Tryna get up close to you.
Karate with the stars, nigga. Got my feet kicked up that far, nigga. Black belt, Balenciaga jeans, yeah, it's soft denim.
WESTSIDE GUNN is limited fun, I feel. Don't get me wrong, he can definitely decorate a scene. His verses are movies, but they're all the same movie. So on his song Bash Money, Lil Wayne's verse is the showstopper here. A genuinely evil, sociopathic, supervillain caricature is bleeding out here, engaging with the scene on Griselda's level with the Lucha Libre line, and then recalling his own arrest in 2019 for carrying his handgun on an aircraft, plus a Garfield name drop, and then equating his expensive collection of cars with big bodies with scar tissue, and then it escalates further even just because Wayne still has one eye on the cosmos.
Got the new spot glass house, that's all windows. I be staring at them all day, looking for guard signals.
Pop star philosopher Marina left her diamonds behind and ascended to the role of a god. Ancient Dreams is an explosive single that cracks into action with a violent bounce and a synth that stirs the pot like a brewing storm. Marina becomes a Mother Nature type figure that refuses to hold herself to her physical body. I am more than who I am. It's a raging feminist declaration in which the weather itself is at her fingertips. Rise up. There are other tracks by these British post-punk yarners that are more thematically interesting, but I'm not here for that squid. I'm here for this squid. These final few minutes of drone noise plunging us into the darkness round out as probably the scariest piece of music that I heard this year. See, there's this ghost hunting documentary from '92 called Ghost Watch, and it was aired on the BBC as this fake live broadcast. It was all pre-recorded and staged, but it was presented as if it was really coming through your feed in real time. It's about a poltergeist haunting a family, and then right at the end, the TV studio itself starts getting a bit possessed too. We eventually cut to the test screen, and then the thermal cameras which catch the host Michael Parkinson blankly walking around in a room that is nearly pitch black. There's a real eerie sense of physical reality breaking away and then revealing this black void behind the scenes. That's what this dreary drone piece reminded me of. Terrifying stuff.
On the way outside.
This song's aura shimmers underneath rippling water. Baths has singing which nimbly prances like the haunting of some mischievous fairy about to shift the tides. This song is from the latest Disney picture, Encanto, and was written partly by Lin-Manuel Miranda, a combination which makes this the least cool song on this list to rave about, but not like I give a shit. I smiled in the movie theatre, and that's what matters. Tons of cool details here, and I love the way this track just sounds like a family that is on the verge of falling apart. And when the final movement finds everybody singing over each other while preparing the dinner table, it really does sound like a clash of bickering voices, an argumentative family acting as if their words really do align in harmony. Excuse the wardrobe change.
I think it's a shortage in the chord. This shit feel distorted when I sing. This shit feel important when I say it. May not be important shit, but hey.
There are two songs this year that evoke the concrete cold grime of the dirty city. This and Paris, Texas's Force of Habit, which probably has the ballsiest hook of the year. But Partments by Kenny Mason is an even simpler joy, a sooty, slightly warped grunge riff pierced by the sizzle and clack of 808 drums. Mason hasn't quite found his sound, but he has found his demeanor, a fallen angel smouldering at ground level.
Now, shit, now that sound like a lose-lose. I'll be in all the main events with the who's. Been putting masks on for the blue flus. Nigga, I still run around.
Jim Jones and Harry Fraud occupied disparate visions of New York, and yet the Dipset honcho finds transformation over the fog-masked, drowsy-eyed beats of La Musica de Harry Frog. It's a taunt song, but the taunts are cinematic, and every movement is a quick swipe caught in slow motion.
Don't look at me funny, you know shit about me. Stood on the block with dreams of an Audi. Had a nightmare sleeping in my house. A nigga called me lacking and pulled me out. Big ass pistol to my mouth.
Over an instrumental that summons the birth of a deadly winter, RX PAPI yells us a 2-minute angry prayer to God. Perhaps this is the closest thing that I've heard, in terms of sheer force, to Ken Arkine's spoken word piece, God Box.
They shall call upon me, but I will not answer! I will not answer! I will not answer! Are you listening? Can you hear me?
Lingua Ignota engages in what I can only describe as musical exorcisms. They're liturgical, they're poetic, they're loud, but this piece really yawns instead. Appalachian folk music is the key here. It's like a gigantic wheel turning and bringing about the new season. You can almost just extrapolate the creaking of wooden boards, or maybe the weight of time looming over everything. This is a song written from the point of view of Lux from the Virgin Suicides, one of the sisters in the conservative Lisbon family, reduced to mysterious female objects of desire for the narrators of the story, though these girls, while the centre of the tale, were purposely never given a real voice. This song, written by Mia Berin and produced by Illuminati Hotties, speaks through her character and also condenses that movie's ironic use of 10cc's I'm Not in Love into a high-octane blast of regretful feminist anger. Hating that she was ever subject to this, hating that she was ever manipulated for her naivety. It ends just like Lux ultimately did, tonight in the garage, but she invites us to see it for ourselves. The historical retrospective of this song is very important, that's needless to say, but really, the entire second half of this track just fucking rips.
My God, this has Egyptian music all over.
ZULI is a DJ from Cairo whose restless beatwork stays true to the compulsions of popular dance beats while bringing around cultural tendencies like the melodies of Egyptian maharaganat. It's always great, but on the cheekily named Bro, love it! The track is split into bizarre stages, interluded by characters who tap the DJ on the shoulder and claim expertise on the culture. This track not only rips, and it also ridicules the Orientalist attitudes of the music industry, while expanding the palette of what actually is possible when DJs get their say on the dance floor.
Intestines. It's twisted in a longing for a lion mouth to the ends of the world.
This is a piano ballad about dysphoria, a recount in the third person about somebody conceiving their dream self. And though this is specifically about the trans experience, that feeling of disconnection with who you really could be is universal enough that I can't imagine those vivid, clear lyrics written like breaths on crystal surface not swiping any given person's breath away. Or at least find your heart lifted and let down by those amazing chords that swell and do not stop, leaning into new distinct moves with so much effortless drift. It even speaks to the fluidity of being. So let's talk about the Armand Hammer album Haram, the pig-threatening psych rap album. I almost went with the closing track Stone Fruit, who wouldn't? It's very searing. However, it's almost a little too loudly purple for me to go with, and I think the longest lingering tracks on that album are actually the ones with more subtler drift.
Woke up on the West Coast for the first time in my life. Drove cross country, but I remember those flights. Genuflected when I heard the weed price. White boys with the weed pipes.
So here we are, falling out the sky, with the shrill squeal of a sun's piercing rays, the scathing dust of sand between your fingers, the groove of a dub record's bass line keeping this track poking at the vessel like rocky sea waves. The Alchemist's sleepy instrumental loops can really hold a cosmic magic sometimes. This beat occupies an endless stretch from Earth's ground beyond a bloodshot sky. Olivia Rodrigo's teen crime? Insane to believe that Olivia Rodrigo's teen angst confessionals really do hold a lot of thematic weight. It's not about the breakup itself, it's about the impermanence of everything. The implicit sense that a lot of this shit was not built to last. And if this is the case, then why does it still hurt so bad when it's over? I think Deja Vu may be the most evocative song, what with its actual feeling of falling out of the sky would have followed up that Armand Hammer song very nicely. But Favorite Crime is a quicker death shot.
All the things you did, well, I hope I was your favorite crime.
Rodrigo has a great voice and she controls it just enough when she breathes out those wounding chorus lyrics of all the things you did, I hope I was your favorite crime. Think of the birth of a mass teeming with blinding light beams, all of that unraveled in this one chirping, pulsing, writhing piece of anxiety music. I think I heard some owls in there too. Post-punk is so on and off that to me, these days, I just don't even bother reaching for the remote. So, when I heard about a French new wave band's cross-hatching of post-punk styles, I barely twitched an elbow. And then I listened to this weird one, and I praise the Lord for delivering unto us a dance punk band whose music is so unashamed of being dance music. This is a song about overthrowing a dictator, but it glorifies the power of dance as a groove to unite all people first. Square one, mate. The growth is so natural, and Arthur Taboul lashes out against the robust rhythm of that percussion. Right at the start you can hear his heavy breathing, like the leader of an army anticipating their storming of the gates. This is real end of world music right here. Peace sign, many exclamation marks, begins with the brutal smash of nu metal guitar riffs and chugs, abruptly skipping and sputtering like they've been fed through a wood chipper. 20 seconds in, the smoke clears and the mood immediately changes as if we can see the sky now. It is bloodshot and burning red. This chorus and its apocalyptic premonitions have such a firm hold of me. The peace sign burning like a vision from God, or the dead hope that you always held on to as a little girl. This is a song about making something beautiful with no hope, but piercing through that is the dooming implication of the lyric, you know why no one will remember us in a better world. Because in a better world, the doom that led to this song's creation would have never existed. Mac DeMarco's most potent musical contribution since, My Old Man. Admittedly, the genre-bending emo Gene Dawson best delivers his message through energy, rather than lyrics. Though at least this song has the line, "I don't need no smoke, bitch, I am the smoke." This song is a gorgeous, resolving sunset. It's the wistfulness of a party's aftermath. It's missing your friends and looking forward to the next time you'll see them. It's what you remember a cigarette tastes like.
Any place you're feeling sadness, there's a place I'd like to run.
The prophecy says we're going to give up. I thought I was numb to numbness, but this song by Travis Miller, aka Sean Kemp, aka the slightly embarrassingly named Lil Ugly Mane, struck a fresh nerve. You get this ballerina music box jingle, almost mocked by a flute melody, too shrill to be a soothing bird song. That flute, man, it lives in my stomach. All the naive childishness of the instrumental is undermined by this drooping weight of his husky, exhausted voice. I don't know if I even agree with the self-hating, self-invalidating tone of Miller's lyrics, but the sheer numbness here that moves me. Those glockenspiel plinkers ring into the abyss.
You wanna be a man, I wanna be a savage. Good boy, I wanna take care of you.
Another depressing song. Ooh boy. And all too real bleeding out of the evil in every single one of us. You see, it's that piano hit that gets me. It's a stab through precious skin, that is.
You are a good thing. I've noticed, I've seen it, and I want.
I mean, catchy, bouncy song and all of that. Wonderful sentiment about locking eyes with somebody and knowing everything's going to be alright. But it's also got a lot of empty space to it, doesn't it? Also, there are other more stimulating songs from that Indigo D'Souza album anyways. Late Night Crawler has those lyrics about wanting to move beyond your island. Real Pain has that excruciating sound collage. Also, maybe the It's Gonna Be Alright sentiments are a little too plain spoken here. I don't know. I just feel like I need that special something. You know what? I still fucking feel it.
I'ma need a bigger bag for the cohort. Tryna make a millionaire out of slum dogs. Bet that head crack blunt force. Cozy with the East Africans up north where 7.
Earl returns to rapping on beat, but with the sort of wisdom that accrues from having experimented with your flow for a long while. And by the way, that beat is magnificent. A glass prism dissolving into a million shards and then reassembling by some unseen force. And then there's a point where the flow switches. Each lyric almost swings into action one after the other, and so quickly too. They're like mirages that vanish before you can get too close. Too many quotables on this one. I almost went with 42, the way that one just bursts into pleasing happiness, but with For You, a track which made waves initially a couple years back as a leaked demo and only had its official release in April, there is a meditative affection here that I think can't be beat. I think the beat has this adorable chord progression that allows the melodic equivalent of your crush's smile to coexist alongside Bourne's timidly sung C-tier punchlines, but it's that amateurish kish that allows it to feel more human than if it was thoroughly polished and maximalized, and during that final minute or so, it feels most ideal for those resolute evening skies. Crack open a can. Cheers. Very strange song. It has the reggaeton rhythm, but it does not groove. So at a much slower pace, a weird sadness is revealed. This is Selena Gomez's duet with Raw Alejandro, responsible for a couple of great pop hits this year. Todo de Ti, for instance, almost made the list. And he's more into really throwing his voice around the place. Gomez is actually swept immediately to Side Banana. The two actually don't have kindred presences at all, not until the final chorus where they still sound like they're kind of fighting. It's very displacing stuff to hear over this rigid, cutting reggaeton movement. It completes an inventive, earth-shaking effect. Kind of creepy, but assuredly great. This is one of the few songs on the Bliss Pining Nurture that really made me want to reenact that cover artwork and fall forward softly into a field of cushioning daisies. I mean, just listen to the song. It's got iterating fragments, skipping and pausing and then hammering like the strings of piano. Some notes plinker like slipped fingers on a piano. Others are kind of like inky notes splodged on a frayed manuscript. But what you might not realize at first is that a secret momentum is kind of building as the sonic palette builds, with snares, pads, the squelch of a ray gun, the clatter of a drum break, backmasked synths, which almost feel like the song is recoiling for a split second and then kicking off again. But it's not all sputtering. The real magic is hearing that it all takes form after the 2-minute mark. Now that is wonderful. And at the 3-minute mark, you get these glass cracking kick drums. Don't they just sound like fireworks? Ain't that whistle just so hooky? It's even better when her voice lines up with it. At a point, you can even hear a sampling of Polachek's own high notes. It's so obvious that she just knows that her voice rules, and she just slips around the inner grooves of the ears so comfortably. Bunny got moves.
Sometimes I look at the stars, I think about how small we are. Sweating it out.
You can say that the Killer's embrace of American heartland rock is kind of contrived and a little bit obvious. That's no matter to me when the title track from their latest album is so good. It's a breathtaking ode to the ache of growing up too quickly, or to me, I think it's an anthem for the overworked. Brandon Flowers describes laborious tasks like cutting the grass and cooking breakfast with beautiful detail, encouraging you to take in these memory triggers before that's all that they can become. Mere memories. And he even scales this against the size of the universe, reckoning with how small we are compared to the rest of the world, sweating it out in the pressure machine.
Carpool karaoke, Steve Aoki, Logan Paul. A gift shop at the gun range, a mass shooting at the mall.
Inside, the stand-up special that everybody naturally has a strong opinion on, is full of misdirection and individual moments of stomach-churning greatness. A lot of picks could have gone here. I think that the bridge of the song White Woman's Instagram is actually a grieving, bawl your eyes out non sequitur from the rest of the song. It's so left field that you wait for the joke to hit and it never does.
Your little girl didn't do too bad, mama, I love you, give a hug and kiss to dad.
All Eyes on Me damn near took this slot if it were not for the very long, empty spoken word bit. I will think about that song again and again, but That Funny Feeling may be the most earnest creation of Bo Burnham's that isn't 8th grade. Burnham's trademark self-defensive irony is actually nowhere to be found, except maybe that disclaimer right at the start about not being good at singing, but whatever. One-liners that should be funny are not. The line about obeying all the traffic laws in Grand Theft Auto 5 would normally be a side laugh in another song, but not here. Instead, it kind of reaches at this futility. It strings together these ideas that turn out to be omens of the hollowness in the world at large, and it just seems to spiral further and further. I honestly get a gut punch when he summons the quiet comprehending of the ending of it all. But every time our days are met with reminders of the world's horror, from climate change to the Paul brothers, we must dissociate ourselves from it to move onward. It's not a loud grieving, it's solemn acceptance. The human race does not ignore its evil doing. Sometimes we even sell it for profit. Therein lies the funny feeling. That funny feeling is never explained in the song because Burnham doesn't have to do it. It's an existential gloom that can only best be described by the symbols that radiate it. In a comedy special where Bo Burnham won't leave a lot of things unexplained, he stops here.
But it'll be over soon, just wait. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da.
But I ain't really care though. My mama told me that I shouldn't stare though, like it was rude or something. Hey, let me know if she was new or something. She all at me, I ain't even had to say 2 words. But who heard? I was kinda nervous.
This one goes out to Black Wonder. It's simply my favorite hip-hop beat of the year. And I think there's power in that being the biggest thing this song has going for it.
How can you dance with the devil on your back? How can you move caught up in a picture perfect that will never last?
This is the 80s pop scene in glorious high-definition color. Church Girl is one of those great dance songs not afraid to actually be about the freedom of dance, especially in a political context.
I wrote you twice last night, wish that I could rewind. Take back whatever I said, but I can't do that. Thought it was going so well, now I don't even know. Said you did this and that, best that I...
This song sort of strikes the same vibe as Pink Pantheress's Just For Me. I mean, it's pretty similar. It's whispery, sensuous, wistful, and it's kindly nostalgic for the R&B of the 2000s, led by acoustic guitar flipped onto skippy drum breaks. There's this occasional sweep in that drum pattern that just gets me every time.
Thought it was going so well, now I don't even know.
Two other songs of DeCassier's could have taken this slot, the No Bullshit strut of Polite, and also Busy for having a balls-to-the-wall harpsichord solo. You know what I can't stand? Continuity errors. Admittedly, I've listened to Diamond Studded Shoes more, and I also love that song's anthemic notion of resilience, that the bullshit is not something to stand for, and we should not kid ourselves with any liberal delusion that the status quo is enough. But Barely Alive. Jesus, it's so strong. It is, in fairness, also an anthem of resilience. There is still a glimmer of strength instilling warmth. And where does that lie? Well, it's carried in Yola's projective voice alone. A timely song indeed, especially given the mentions of isolation specifically. But it's not strictly about that. It's about the forward movements, the waiting for things to get better, even if they won't. This song is the resolution to all of the anguish. A beautiful contradiction in the refrain of comfort. I know you felt unseen. Does that not signal that you, the fleeting ghost, have at last been spotted? This song is an invitation to those spirits to stay a little while longer for tea. It's not tea, but it's close enough.
All alone in a flat, all I see is cracked windows. I'm putting haze in the air, dressed in black. Do you think I care? Blank face there, in the dark like prayer. Dogs on a leash, 120s on a dash, 110s on a...
Somehow, this one rounds out as probably the most difficult song for me to listen to on this list. Even harder than Boy Races. Boy Races is a little bit aloof. This one is genuinely very bleak. Space Africa are doing wonders in the world of sampling, and I think Black Hane is the perfect accompaniment. There's a hopelessness to his deadpannery.
City going up, so you better buzz. Finna see who really wanna us, really spilling blood. Everybody tough, till they gotta go and see the judge. Nigga better hush. Remember growing up, all I wanted was to be a thug.
As a song with the haunting reminiscence of a carousel glowing at night, Vince Staples brings the night to life in a rare song where all of it is sung. He says the city's going up, but this action is not festive. The reminiscence upon these scenes is a real decided sadness that any of it had to happen, and yet this is what makes Vince Staples, a dirge which is delivered with so much nonchalant shrug since lingering on it would have made the sadness too weighty to stand. Staples' reflection on his youth holds the constant awareness that becoming a rapper in Long Beach was a close shave away from an alternative fate.
Bust it for me. In case you niggas been missing and I've been giving you hits, and you been sleeping on bitches and I've been looking to fit. I second line, you hoes making these weak. That's what we do, babe, man, we do it all week.
Another Dawn Richards song almost took this slot, Boomerang. I actually think that one is more direct and catchier, but Buster For Me is just so much more innovative, and I think this one stands as potentially the best dance track of the year. This one builds so creatively and in just pockets that you just don't expect at first. I love hearing this groove just gradually fall into place. That plus a little nod to Beyonce.
Hi-hats.
This is supposedly the empowering spirit of the second line parades, and I'm glad that in terms of house-inspired hip-hop tracks I didn't have to run with Azealia Banks.
And I guess in some way
not that anyone gives a shit, but this was my most played song on Spotify this year. How about that? Never mind my nitpick about the Black Midi referencing line, which I think is a name drop that kind of breaks the timelessness of the usual name drops, since that band are less symbolic than, say, Kanye or Scott Walker, but who gives a fuck? The song is still viewing a refracted memory, either out of wonder or trauma, you don't quite know. And given all the hilarious meta-absurdities that Isaac Wood has bellowed out, it's oddly grounding to understand that his most moving lyric to me has been an unfinished sentence. And I guess... ... In some way, ... Question mark. That magic feeling on track X really sums it all up, having so much stewing inside you, but you're never quite able to articulate it fully.
My knees hurt when I grow. And that's a tough pill to swallow. Because I'm not getting taller. Please, is there anywhere I could grow?
Do you remember that bizarre episode of Rhythm Roulette where Parker Corey from Injury Reserve hopped on and made a beat that everyone kind of disliked? Bit fragmented, bit weird, but I really respected it because it showed that he had tastes in something a lot stranger. The song Knees feels like all of that just burst out the cage, winding up more like a classic first wave post-rock piece. Every credit to him, whether you like it or not, nothing sounds like this. Except maybe Black Midi's Sweater, which is the song that is sampled here. Over an excerpt of that, Injury Reserve create this song about pain, which they articulate as the kind of pain that should be growing pains, but since they're not getting any taller, why are they still feeling it anyways? And even outside of what the sample is doing, stopping and starting, it's unsettling to hear the times where voices are just kind of spilling over each other. And just what is that clicking? What is it counting down towards?
Adelaide, you've been too afraid to reach through these teeth. Even when disaster strikes, you won't rise. Adelaide, you've been too afraid.
Ain't it the morning for a song like this? A lot of great songs are about making peace. For instance, on this very same morning, the clouds change from a red tint to a blue hue. Even the power lines are arranged like musical staves. Maybe, just maybe, the world could be healing.
Can't wait to be rich, want a better life. Diamond scars and drips, all money can buy. I just wanna live on the other side.
This song has celebrity, wealth, and Hollywood framed as escapism because that is the illusion given to us. The expensive paradise for those who wish they could amount to something more. It's the poignancy of a young child flicking through magazines wishing that they looked like them, lived like them. It's not their fault though, they didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Cause I'm speeding on my way home from 11. And I dream to be a fool.
That opening you just heard still gets me. The bottom drops out and we get thrust into space, painted by the beginning shrill droning of the beach house song Apple Orchard. Perfect match. The song so perfectly evokes the force of a fast breeze against a face sticking out the car window, but the song doesn't even need to be fast itself in order to portray that. Even switching vocal registers and volume and making my hairs stand on end. The killer move is here to conduct a big world with so little sound, and Yusu hit the goddamn bullseye. It has stuck with me since February, and Futuro is a perfect track. That dub bass line just evokes natural comfort, like wading through a creek, but then you hear this fluttering screech throughout the piece that evokes something else entirely, as if to beckon you towards a much eerier part of the landscape. Truthfully though, it's that bass line that seals the deal. Yusu found one and locked in. No bullshit. First off, that hook. That is the hook. Are you hearing this shit? Perfect for the Euphoria era of post-teenage angst, although I think this is an even more visceral and authentic portrayal than that show even. It's even more visceral than Perfect Places by Lorde, and that the chorus sounds truly disillusioned. The truth is that we will never recapture the magic of that first night we are all chasing. And what's even more effective are the pauses to breathe, where the sadness begins to seep in. But it's ever so cleverly pushed to the sidelines, even if we don't really need to know the colour of Baby Queen's mum's car. That aside, it really sounds like a push for escape, but it's implicit about the escape being as terrible as the sober world, full of inconsiderate, selfish boys and littered lollipop rappers.
He said, have you been seeing your therapist? You seem a little on edge. Are you always this nervous? I said, yeah. And this is a hard drive.
the most therapeutic track of the year, so glorious that we get a song that really sounds like a new world being accessed through a seldom seen crack in the mise-en-scene. It even has that saxophone tearing through the sky reminiscent to Destroyer's Kaput. Follow the trail and find wonder. Cassandra Jenkins' spoken word verses take the lead here as a narrator whose voice drifts ghostily from scene to scene, person to person, observing their words of healing, eventually occupying their advice so closely that they even become the person who is speaking. And by their second half, it just becomes a breathing exercise to help you recalibrate in your times of coming undone. You just have to close your eyes and count along.
Watch it bouncing on the ground, got my edges sweating now, turn it up extra loud. Yeah, tonight we stepping out, been a minute since I found someone who could hold it down.
Sorry, let me just spell out the word. It's an onomatopoeic masterpiece. Tinashe's voice ping-pongs between pitches as much as that sploopy synth does. Bright lights, lead movements, and an artificiality that suggests that this is all a slipped finger away from disappearing into the metaverse. Until the tail months of the year, where you can see that 2 tracks have lapped it, I was convinced that this would be the greatest track that I'd heard the whole of 2021. At first, the sound isn't even clear, or in focus as I might say. That blubbering garage groove with a skip in its step has its clarity just muffled by these ugly filters, and I do mean ugly as a compliment. As you find out, it gives a crushing impact to the entire second half, which just drops the filters and brings every blinding sound into focus. The trajectory of the rhythm isn't even clear, only the synths which scorch and streak the sky give you any clue towards the greater picture. The track eventually wipes the slate clean and comes back for a second build, and holy shit, does that burn through the ears. It's a ringing, searing white light. It's everything you hoped for.
I like how you look when you get good news. I like how you look when you're dancing to your favorite song. Go ahead, turn the radio on.
The first observation I made about Dijon's music is that he seems to enjoy making a lot with a little, but then I thought that's kind of wrong. It makes a lot with what sounds like a little. The recording's pretty unmastered. Dijon sounds like he's singing from the bathroom a couple doors down the corridor, but that's all part of the charm. There really is a lot going on here. Truthfully, the best version of this song is the live performance on YouTube, where every sound in the room is crystal clear, and so are those vocal harmonies. Boot stomps, yelps, the whole shebang. But then you hear the studio version and its dissonant, sourer flavor, plus its timidness, like every sound is waiting on the right instant to pop into color. What a wonderful, passionate song about the love of everything about a person. The words quake when he sings them. They're nervous. I feel you. It's too much to handle sometimes. And especially the cute resolve of that line, I like how you look when you get good news. I love that line. We all love receiving good news, and yet I feel as if we don't acknowledge that simple joy enough, or at least in other people's great news. Did I get you? Well, I didn't get you. This is real. All Too Well has been the fan favourite confessional since Taylor Swift's Red stole the show in 2012 in the runnings for her best ever song, and at worst it's gotta be sitting in the honourable mentions at least. Rumour had it for a while that a 10-minute version of this venture was in the vaults, although what concise storytelling the original had is expanded into stomach-churning truths and much more stressful, devastating waves that roar louder in sighs. A song that even sounds like the transition from autumn into winter. No, Taylor Swift is not the first person to make a 10-minute song, but she is someone that made a 10-minute song worth the listen. Making All Too Well 10 minutes long isn't just making a good song longer, it makes the story itself wider, and the real magic is understanding that in every story there are crucial details laying just out of frame that may change the way we think about that scarf, for instance. The arcs of entire days are rolled into the way that Swift sings phrases like or There is no finality because the memory was formative. The fawn was frightened and forever will be in this relaying on the story. Swift taps on the glass but can't wake that thought. Donnie Darko's next bankroll might be no great furniture to hide what's under those floorboards, and John Mayer is shitting himself. And that, my friends, is the list.
Cody's on my mind, I got 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 crazy, I keep it crazy, cause I got Cody's on my mind, I got Cody's on my mind, I got
Why do you clap?
It's so that I can sync, because I'm recording video, but then I'm also recording through the mic. So it's when I clap, it creates like a spike in the audio waves, so I can sync them together.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So you know how the board that's like take one,
Yeah.
and it makes that clapping sound. That's why they do it.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
That's actually really cool, right? Yeah, yeah.